injured.
Oh,
Well, who's taking care of her, so.
oh, okay.
I'm not doing that anymore.
All right, we're being live streamed now. We are.
Well,
Don't be sorry. I'm just getting things up and running. Hmm. Odd. Alrighty. Did you take a cookie? What's the matter?
Interesting trivia fact. Softball was invented in 1887.
Yes.
Okay. They used a broomstick for the bat. And you ready for the ball? A boxing ball.
That's soft.
Yep. Broomstick I understood. But the boxing ball.
Alrighty.
At least they didn't use somebody's head.
So that was golf.
It don't aim at any place but at me, because I'm already got an image on the screen. That's good. The Lord be with you.
Also, yeah.
Most blessed God, who sent a little child to lead us from darkness to light, make us open to the changes this child will bring to our lives. Make us ready to be more loving and more giving. Make us ready to find ourselves by losing ourselves to Him. Most of all, dear God, help us to follow Him on a journey to salvation. Help us through this child to give up the lives we've known for a greater life than in Him. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen. Okay. Let's start with the question. Have you ever been married? You have. I have. Hope somebody else who listens to this has. We need. My wife is not with us. I don't. She's got a therapy thing to do this morning, and that's why she made me clean the house before I came over. Well, we did our best. Listen, we're still getting over the wedding. They're going to come back and live with us for a few weeks before they get their apartment. So we're not out of the woods yet. Anyway, actually, that ties right in with our subject. If you've been married, or if you've never been married, what's it like to have a place of your own?
Are you asking everyone a question?
Everyone, it's a question. What's,
For me, it's kind of low sometimes.
well, no, think of the positive things, will you
Oh,
please? Oh, well, that's nice. Wow. I feel gypped.
And then came back here from California. I already took the ferry to the Canada. Except for my personal things, I left everything behind.
Oh, my Lord.
2-bedroom house full of furniture. I
Wow.
left it. So.
Well, when you had your house in the beginning, how did you decide what to do? Daily.
Well, after my mom passed away, I started doing things each morning. Like on Monday, before going to work, on Mondays I would go to Tuesdays I would Wednesdays was the
Okay.
bathroom.
So you had a routine.
Kitchen I clean every day, so that takes me to some special day.
Well,
And, you know,
that's a good policy.
I do the laundry on Sunday.
And where did you keep your jewelry, your watches, your collar buttons, whatever? You know, mhm.
There's gonna be a spiritual reason for these questions. right?
Yeah, and but what about your cleaning materials?
Keep them out in the garage. I have a big cabin there, but
Okay.
that's where I keep, you know, toilet paper, paper towels and all that kind of stuff.
What about things in the kitchen? Where did you keep your glassware?
Up in the cabins.
Uh-huh.
I've changed them around a few times.
Did you have canisters for your food or anything like a coffee canister and a cereal canister and you know that kind of
I
stuff?
have a set of canisters. They're all kind of like flowers. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and there's the coffee, tea, sugar.
His kitchen is beautiful, by the way.
Hmm.
You want to get a picture of it?
No, thank you. You'll just make me know how bad mine is. Smithson's. Who was your first child? Richard. And when Richard came into the world, what happened? Could you still find your color buttons and your and your cleaning materials? Was everything where you left it when you come back to get it again?
I wouldn't know anything.
Well, what about your sleep routine? Did that change at all?
No.
His did.
It didn't. Yours did.
I was probably still working night shift.
What about making plans for where you're going to go to have some fun that weekend?
No, we carried on as normal.
When you have a kid, what happens to your life?
Changes a bit.
Oh, a bit. Yeah.
Your whole life revolves around.
How many did you have?
4.
You're close to me. How many did you have? You're nowhere near me. Kids change your life. Trust me. If you put your car keys on the same table you've been putting them on for 10 years before you had a child, at some point along the way, you're going to go back for the keys and they're going to be gone. Now, it might not be their first year because they can't walk yet. But they're going to find the keys. They're going to see where mommy and daddy puts them. They're going to take them. My mom used to leave her purse with her cosmetics and so forth at the bottom of the steps in the home where we lived when I was very young. And she kept it there so that when she got ready to go out, she'd have her touch-up stuff, her lipstick and her face powder and her little mirror and stuff. One morning she got up and she went down and it was there, but it was lying all over the floor.
Oh.
And the front door was open.
Oh.
I did.
Oh my God. And where did you go?
I went out the front door and I was on my way to my dad's church where he used to go all the time. There was a back way to
With no
go.
lipstick?
Yeah, at 5 years old.
Did you put the lipstick on?
Well, I put it on. I wouldn't say it got where it belonged.
Oh.
It was all over my face. 5. And I went out the door and around the back of the house. And as I remember it, I climbed up this huge wall to get into the next yard. And then I went down the back alley, past the back of the apartment buildings, and it was snow on the ground. So I was getting cold. So I went into the apartment building, into the washroom and laid up next to a dryer. I was very, very creative.
Your mother must have been terrifying.
They called the police. They said I'd been kidnapped. They said they'd been robbed because there was money in the purse. And they finally found me, warm and tucked away. But your life changes when you have kids. Big time. Oh, that is true. And let's see, if I was 5, that means the third one had just come along. Every 1 year and 4 months.
How long did it take for them to find you?
I don't know. I was asleep.
The
Yes.
dryer.
Yes, well, not in the dryer, next to the dryer. And when you have kids, you have to plan your vacations for kids. Up to an extent. When you go shopping, you have to figure out how to take the kid with you and how to keep the kid from grabbing everything off the counter, off the shelves that you don't want and that they do. You have another person to worry about their health, doctor's appointments, checkups, where are they going, or what percentiles are they in, all kinds of other stuff. And yet, there are moments where you smile and where you feel blessed and where you receive back some of the love which you have unselfishly dealt out to the child, regardless of what they've done to you,
Which you're still doing, by the way.
including peeing up into your face when you're trying to change them and pooping while you're trying to clean the poop they already made. Things get really complicated, but you continue to love them. But children change your life. I'm going to read, I didn't do this the other times because I didn't think it was necessary, but I think you should hear this little short essay.
How is this connected to Advent?
We're getting there.
Oh, I'm so impatient.
Yes, you are. During the last 5 years, my wife and I have found out what every other parent in all of human history has found out. Children bring changes to your life. In fact, children take life as you've known it and turn it upside down. In his book, Fatherhood, Bill Cosby asks just one question of those who want to have children. Why? Why would you have children when all of your other acts were rational? Why would you give up the comfortable patterns of your life for the joys of frantically coping with reproductions of your own self? Think of all the changes children bring. Once it didn't matter where you kept things in the house, you could put a product like cleaning liquid or razor blades wherever you most convenient for you to put them. But when the children come, forget it. You now are engaged in a kind of guerrilla warfare against diabolically clever creatures who are equipped with a built-in radar system to help them find all the things they shouldn't find. If the box of cereal is stored on the bottom shelf in the kitchen, the whole floor will be covered with Cheerios or Fruit Loops. If your delicate drinking glasses are left on the counter, your children will prove that glass breaks when thrown to the floor with sufficient force. The cleaning liquid must be stored high above reach or it will end up in someone's mouth. My son ended up drinking antifreeze.
Oh, that'll kill you.
It almost did. It almost did.
I didn't know that what it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
3 years old, my dad put it in a baking powder container, so I sprinkled and I swallowed it.
Oh.
In other words, children bring radical changes to your house or apartment. You have to rearrange everything and child-proof every room until the children are old enough to know better.
About 17.
Maybe more. They're still chewing, they're still swallowing Tide Pods at 17. Oh, yes. It was a TikTok challenge.
Oh, for
Oh,
God's
I
sake.
remember.
Once you could put something down and it's, I said that. Oh, here you go. Once you could put something down in a certain place and it would be there when you went back for it. But when the children come, forget it. For example, I had a certain hairbrush for years. In fact, it was given to me when I was 8 by a friend of the family. And ever since then, I have used the same hairbrush and kept it in the same place on my dresser. Until I had children, that is. The other day, as I was getting ready for work, I couldn't find my hairbrush. In fact, I couldn't find it for 3 days. It stayed lost until I went to make a snack one night and found my hairbrush sitting in the toaster oven. That's another change children bring. Nothing stays where you left it unless it's nailed down. Once you had such a thing as peace and quiet. You could get all your work done and joyously make plans to sit down and watch your favorite team in the most important game of the year. But when the children come, forget it. Just as the game is set to begin, the baby wakes up from a nap and the other children want to play with the same toy. A huge Tonka truck comes hurtling down the stairs and you have to find out why. You remember Jesus's words, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." But by the time you get back to the game, it's half over. Yes, children bring changes. They turn couches into trampolines. They turn your king-size bed into a giant toy box. When you climb into bed at night and impale yourself on the sharp points, I thought, what are the ones the bricks you make things with?
Like
Legos. That's why I thought that's where he was headed, but he didn't. With the sharp points of a plastic toy which somehow found its way under your sheets. You say to yourself, I remember when this bed was just a bed. I remember when hairbrushes didn't end up in toaster ovens. I remember when, yes, children bring changes. They take silent homes and fill them with laughter and the sound of running feet. They take lives which never knew how empty they were and fill them with love and joy and the sparkling light of dancing eyes. Children bring blessings upon blessings to their parents. And even though they change our lives in hundreds of ways, both great and small, we love them dearly and we wouldn't have it any other way. Can we say the same thing about Christ, the Christ child, who is soon to be born in our midst? If our own children change our lives in so many earthly ways, shouldn't the baby Jesus change our lives even more profoundly and for all eternity? 2 women were standing on the corner of a busy downtown street at the height of Christmas season. The cars were bumper to bumper, so the women could barely cross the street. They stood there on the sidewalk with presents piled high over their heads, but the sidewalks were as crowded as the street, with people pushing and rushing to get their shopping done. Sometimes the people were friendly. Sometimes they were rude, as they tried to get their gifts before anyone else did. I hate Christmas, the one woman said to the other. I hate all the crowds and the noise, the rat race of commercialism, the confusion, the short temper people have, and the expensive things you're expected to buy. To me, Christmas is frustrating. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, the other woman said, because I love Christmas. To think that a little child born 2,000 years ago, halfway around the world, could create such an uproar in the middle of this modern city. It's just amazing. It's true, isn't it? That this one child born in Bethlehem puts the world into an uproar every year at this time? This one child creates enormous changes throughout the world, at least in an outward superficial sense, with lights and sails and loudspeakers, with Christmas music wafting over busy streets. But what about the inner changes? The deeper changes this Christ child can bring to your life? The prophet Isaiah spoke of all that would happen when the Messiah comes. And he said, a little child shall lead them. One little child. His name is Jesus. And when he's born, nothing is ever the same again. What about you once this baby is born? Will your life be any different because of him? Will you put aside your old ways to take on the cost and joy of discipleship in his name? We all know that children bring changes in life. What changes will this child bring in your life on Christmas Day? Amen. For those who are watching, this came from a short story book for sermoning, some assembly required and other sermons of Advent. What's nice about it is it not only includes the adult studies, but it includes a child's story after each one that you can use for your children. Anyway, let's see what Isaiah had to say. You got your Bibles with you? Isaiah chapter 11, beginning at verse 1. We will read through verse 9, I think. Actually, no, it will stop at 9. I will read since I've got the NRSV version. There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. Righteousness shall be the girdle of his waist, and faithfulness the girdle of his loins. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid. The calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall feed, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The sucking child shall play over the hole of an asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the adder's den. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. I'm going to go just a little further. In that day, the root of Jesse shall stand as an ensign to the peoples. Him shall the nations seek, and his dwellings shall be glorious. In that day, the Lord will extend his hand yet a second time to recover the remnant which is left. He is left his people from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Ethiopia, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the coastlands of the sea. He will rise an ensign for the nations, and will assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The jealousy of Ephraim shall depart, and those who harass Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not be jealous of Judah, and Judah shall not harass Ephraim. But they shall swoop down upon the shoulders of the Philistines in the west, and together shall plunder the people of the east. They shall put forth their hand against Edom and Moab, and the Ammonites shall obey them. And the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt, and will wave his hand over the river with his scorching wind, and smite it into 7 channels, that men may cross dry shod. And there will be a highway from Assyria for the remnants which had left his people, as there was for Israel when they came up from the land of Egypt. Anybody want to guess what the stump is? It's the way it starts. It tries to identify what's going on. There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse. Okay, which bloodline? Just, I mean, in general. Well, from
Abraham.
or even from Adam. It's according to which one you want to follow. Because remember, Jesus is the second Adam. Oh, you don't read your Bible, do you? There are some very powerful comparisons made in the Gospels
So
about,
God failed once and then he was gonna try again.
oh, God did not fail. We failed. And God gave us a second chance. Yeah,
Huh.
that's the way it goes, see. But Jesse who was Jesse's son? You said it already. David. So the king of Israel was Jesse's son. That may have been the beginning of the new line, of the continued line. But the stump was when Israel was defeated. We don't know which defeat it was, because there were 2 or 3 within that time period. But there was, let's go to that. A very good resource you might want to consider is a website called Working Preacher. It's meant for clergy to prepare sermons and stuff, but it's got some wonderful, wonderful stuff in it. And here, under Isaiah, they went 1 to 10. I went all, I did the entire chapter. Yeah, 1 to 16. It says Isaiah 11 begins with the claim that new life will spring forth from an injured stump. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. It is difficult to say what historical event, if any, lies behind the image of the stump. It is a reference to the exile in which Davidic monarchy certainly was cut down. The downfall of the proud Assyrian Empire, or is it perhaps a reference to the young Josiah, whose father Ammon was assassinated? You want to find out about them there in Isaiah 10 in the 30s and 2 Kings 21 in the 20s. What seems likely is that the image would have been relevant at numerous points in Israel's history. Wherever the case may be, the text imagines a new beginning for Judah's monarchy. In this hopeful future, Yahweh's Spirit will alight upon the ruler, resulting in justice for the poor and the lowly in the land, and a fundamental reordering of creation's priorities. Life emerges from death. This is the way of Israel's God. The concrete expression of this new future is a ruler on whom the Spirit will rest. Promise comes to Israel in the form of a person, a human king who embodies the best of Israel's traditions. He is wise and understanding, powerful and effective in war, able to judge for the benefit of the poor, and obedient to God. This king rules the world in such a way that the poor are treated righteously, the meek are given a fair hearing, and the wicked are killed. So glorious is his reign that he is literally clothed in righteousness and faithfulness. The king's righteousness reigns reorder and reorders creation in profound ways. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like an ox. This vision of a reordered creation is remarkable. Predators will dwell in harmony with their prey. Carnivorous instincts are transformed. and the most vulnerable humans in society, children, are free to play with venomous snakes. Interspecies violence effectively comes to an end, and harmony ensues. Additional insights emerge when these texts are read against their broader ancient Near Eastern background. In the royal propaganda of the ancient Near East, royal figures frequently encountered predatory animals, and especially lions. And so it is no surprise to find the royal child depicted as a shepherd among lions. What is surprising, however, is the way in which the youngest shepherd interacts with them. In general, kings would be depicted fighting and killing the lions, not leading them or living among them. The killing of lions demonstrated one's worth to rule and was a sign of divine favor. For example, in his bid to fight Goliath, David demonstrated his royal credibility when he says to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and struck it down, rescuing the lamb from its mouth. And if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defiled the armies of the living God." Such a good dramatic reading. I have to answer this. I think it's the guy who's fixing my stove again. Hello?
What were you reading at the beginning, Isaiah?
Yes, sir. Okey doke. I'll let my wife know. Thank you. I have to tell my wife he's 25 minutes away. Pardon me for,
No, that's okay.
and pardon me with you guys too.
So in this chapter, he's talking about the time that's very far away. He wasn't talking about a time that was gonna happen in a couple of weeks, right?
It wasn't weeks, but it wasn't as far as you think, because David came along.
But the lion hasn't laid down with the lamb yet, as far as I know, and kids don't play with venomous snakes.
Well, that's future.
Because I know that the end times, when Jesus comes back and love is restored on earth, no one's gonna be killing animals for food anymore. The lion's gonna lay down with the lamb and everything's gonna be heavenly.
I don't know that people won't be killing animals for food
It says-
anymore. Well,
It says it in the Bible.
you got to be careful how you read things.
No, you be careful.
You're just a committed.
But God has provided everything we need on this earth. Because before we sinned, Adam and Eve were vegans. They didn't kill any animals. It was only after sin that we started killing animals.
Well, their son started it pretty quickly. It
comes from sin. It doesn't come from love.
I
I know you. I'm just
Eh,
talking
yeah.
spiritually. I'm not talking.
spiritually, okay, but killing to eat is in fact, what did God say to Saint Peter before he went to visit,
Oh, I agree with you, but it's after the fall.
say kill, yeah, but he's a killer, but the point that things may have changed, but it wasn't sinful before, it just wasn't done before. Right,
They started
right.
killing after Adam and Eve ate the fruit of the tree of good.
It just goes to show you the doctor's wrong. An apple a day does not do a darn thing. Oh, that's just a popular translation. It says fruit, the fruit of the tree.
Well, very good.
Now, let's get back to what we were doing now. Let's not get sidetracked. Divide the armies of the living.
So I'm not being rude.
David said, yes. We're getting there. It's coming. It's a process. David said, "The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will save me from the hand of the Philistine." Foreshadowing at work here is obvious. David was not only acting like a shepherd, he was acting like a king. Unlike his ancient Near Eastern contemporaries, however, the Davidic rule of Isaiah 11 does not hunt lions. Rather, he mysteriously remakes them. And he does so in a way that utterly eliminates predatory violence from the food chain. For Isaiah 11, these are the fruits of the just and the righteous reign of David's descendants. In the summary words of verse 10, they will not hurt or destroy all on my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Unsurprisingly, the center of this transformed action is my holy mountain, known otherwise as Zion, where God's temple resides. From Yahweh's throne in Jerusalem, peace emanates outward, filling the world with knowledge of the Lord. On that day, the root of Jesse will be like a standard from the nations of the earth. It will seek out Jacob. All nations will be drawn to the family of promise, whose God resides at Zion. As Christians, it's hard not to see ourselves as those nations that long for God and Israel, who we know in Jesus, the Jewish descendants of Jesse and David, but a close comparison with Jesus' ministry and with the ministry of the king of Isaiah 11 reveals some striking differences. Jesus certainly had a powerful earthly ministry, and he continues to minister graciously in the present through word, sacrament, etc., but evil still flourishes. The poor and the meek remain afflicted. Predators continue to kill their prey. Violence is still done in God's holy mountain, and the earth is far from being full of the knowledge of the Lord. If Isaiah 11 were the criteria by which Jesus' ministry was judged, then one would have to conclude that, on the whole, it falls far short. Christ's victory remains a hidden victory, or even an unaccomplished one. Are we forced to conclude, then, that Jesus has failed as the Messiah? No, but we may have to concede that his ministry is fundamentally incomplete. A true Jewish Messiah could not leave the world as it is, with evil still on the throne and the poor still in the dust. Isaiah reminds us that Christians who still long for the messianic completion of creation, the second coming, the parousia, have a great deal in common with Jews who have historically struggled to see Jesus' ministry as messianic. At the end of the day, Isaiah 11 does allow us to celebrate Jesus' ministry in the past, and especially in the present. But the text also urges us to the place of intercession, where we long for creation's promised destiny as a place where peace, justice, and grace have the final word. Now, having said that, how does this take us to Advent? Advent is our expectation of what's coming from Jesus. And remember the first Sunday of Advent, what did I tell you? We can look to the past. We can see what Isaiah said. We can see what Luke said. We can see what Matthew said. We can look to the future. We can say what John says in Revelation and what some of the apostles and some of the disciples have said in their epistles. What is going to happen, John especially. But we forget to look in the present. We forget to live in the present. This tells us that just like with any other child, you have to live in the present. You can't say, this child's being naughty, throw him out, get another one. Although I've heard that uttered by some people at one time or another. I think that was my mother. You have to live in the present. You have to find the goodness of the moment in the present. You don't hope that things are going to get better. If you hope things are going to get better, they're never going to get better. I'll give you the most perfect example, and I hope my daughter's not listening to this broadcast. We said, once Priscilla is married, everything at home will get back to normal, and the kids and us will all lead our own lives and come together for joyous times and celebrations and love and caring and helping and things. 7 o'clock this morning, the phone rings. It's Anna. Dad, I need cough syrup. Yes. I just turned around. I'm not going to school. I am sick. I'm going to pull in the driveway. Could you bring me some cough syrup? wait, I look in the cabinet, I can't find any cough syrup. Tell my wife, she says, ask her if she can use Metamucil. I said, well, Metamucil works. She says, perfect. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And when she gets there, she calls, I'm in the driveway. So I got to get dressed and I got to go down and take the, and I did not give her a kiss because I have no idea what she's sick with.
Oh,
But somehow the peace of the Lord had not descended upon my home at the departure of my last child. Now, does that mean I'm upset with my daughter? Absolutely not. I'm glad I could help her. I'm glad she could stop by the house on the way home and save herself having to go into a drugstore where there's even more germs that could make her even sicker. I'm glad I could do that, but it's never what you expect. And in all truth, a child never grows up. They get older, they have their own kids, but they never, ever are not your children. And thank God for that.
You're very lucky, Father Paul, that your children stay in touch with you. When I first came here and I was reading communities and shut-ins, so many of them would say to me, my child lives in northern New Jersey or in Iowa or someplace, and they say, I never see them. And that's so sad.
There's, I'm not going to get into that because that is not any one person's fault or anyone. Society contributes to that as much as anything else, telling kids that don't do what your mother and father do. Go find your own way and go here and go to this college and learn these exotic new thoughts that have nothing. And your parents don't tell them because they're old fashioned and they won't understand. Happens every day. Now it happens in kindergarten and 5th grade and 7th grade and 12th grade and college and graduate school. And it's on and on and on. They tell you why your parents don't know what they're talking about. And that's wrong because they do. They might not know the subject matter, but they know the implications and ramifications of the kind of behaviors and things that are going on these days. You can't be selfish. You can't be self-centered. You can't take from others to have for yourself. Sounds like the 10 Commandments. Yes, go ahead.
How do the people that are telling kids if their parents don't know what they're talking about, how do they know that what they're telling them is correct?
Oh, but they're always right because they have PhDs.
I'd say something on that.
Well, I can tell you something great because I've said it in front of the bishop. Bishop, PhD or not, PhD simply means piled higher and deeper. It's important. I've heard other people say that when you have a PhD, it means you know a whole lot more about a whole lot less. And that is true. And that's good because that leads to, finding discoveries and doing good things, which are helpful. But it doesn't mean that because you've got a PhD in microbiology that somehow you can tell people that whether there's a God or not. And trust me, a lot of them just tell their students outright, if you believe in this God stuff, you're stupid. They say it out loud. Watch the movie God Is Not Dead. That's a good representation of it. It's not perfect, but it's good. Our kids, I know my kids stay in touch because they love us. And sometimes kids don't stay in touch because they have been told they don't owe anything to their parents. If anything, their parents owe things to them, like health insurance till they're 26. When I left home at 18 years of age, I got my own car. I got my own car insurance. I got my own, didn't have cell phones back then, bought my own landline. I got my own job. I paid my own bills. I paid my own medical. I did not ask my dad for anything. Not that I can remember. There may have been once or twice I had to go to him for advice or something, but I was to make my way in life. Today, they live in their parents' basement. They don't take any risks. They don't take any chances. They don't feel like they have to work. They feel like their parents owe them food and clothing and shelter for the rest of their lives if they want it. And that's not true. If you're a productive individual, you go and you be productive, not live in your parents' basement. Some kids, I understand, they stay with their parents a little while to get a down payment for a house. That's okay. That's reasonable. As long as you're giving your parents something to help them with their food bill and stuff that they're feeding you.
Well, as long as you stay home. That's what you had to do, you pay rent to the whole nine yards.
Anyway, I don't want to get carried away on that subject. I want to stay back with what we were saying. How does this lead to Advent? Jesus changes our lives. This is a child that comes into our life, and it's the kind of child a parent should have. A child who is relatively obedient, a child who helps provide for the family. Jesus, as he grew up, studied his father's trade, whatever it was. We call it carpenter. It could have been a mason. We're not sure yet. It could have been both. It could have been a general contractor. But well, I'm serious. I'm not just kidding around. We didn't. I hate to say, bad analogy. We don't have it nailed down. Jesus doesn't like that one. Anyway, point is, he helped to provide when his father died. He continued to provide for his mother, and when he couldn't do it himself, even dying on the cross, he told his apostle, "This is your mother. This is your son," to make sure she was cared for. Today, they throw you in a nursing home and they say, "Good luck." It's true. And doctors give them, beyond that, now they're trying to kill them. In Canada, in the Netherlands, they have legal doctor-assisted suicide. And now, when we hear that in our country, we think, oh, that means the terminally ill, close to the end, that they're in such pain and agony that we want to relieve them of that. No. 2 16-year-old girls left this country just a year ago, went over to the Netherlands and said they were depressed, they wanted to die, they killed them. Just like that. They signed the papers, they gave them the pills, that was at the end of it. Now in Canada, they're telling people, military men with PTSD, they're saying, well, if you can't live with it and you really feel that you can't deal with it anymore, you could have doctor-assisted suicide. That would get you out of it. And some of them are actually taking them up on it because they're so depressed they don't know what they're doing. You can't trust anybody but God. They say they're trying to help you and be good to you. I have seen where we've let people die who are in terminal cancer and lying on the bed and literally arching their backs every 30 seconds with pain and agony and screaming. Sure, you pump up the what's that stuff called? No, morphine. I was going to say Novocaine. I'm afraid of dentists. Yes. Anyway, and the nurse literally showed the family how to turn it up and how to do it in a way that wasn't sudden and painful. And the family went ahead and did it. And they weren't doing it because they wanted to kill their mother. They loved their mother more. This was a huge family, was there and praying for her and doing all the right things. But this woman was in agony. There, I understand. I really do. And I'm sure the mother was glad to be relieved of the agony she was experiencing. But you don't take someone who's had a bad day or just lost their job or something else and tell them, well, if you can't deal with it, you can always kill yourself. It's called MAID. I'm trying to remember what it stands for. Medically assisted something death. And this is in several countries now. And it's coming in the West Coast. California is starting to change the rules. Now they're saying kids under the age of consent can ask to be relieved of their pain and agony. And Oregon's trying to do it too.
Well, I know one thing I learned. My problem with depression, they always emphasize that suicide is a long-term solution to a short-term
Problem, exactly. Well, the sad part about it is I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist, but I believe that the governments of the world want less people. They want to thin the crop. Why do you think they're closing all these farms? It has nothing to do with carbon dioxide. They're trying to shorten it, and they're warning us. There's going to be no food next month. It's going to be gray. If you didn't save any, you're going to be dead. We can't save you. Cranberry sauce? What nutritional value does cranberry sauce have?
Because of the weather up in Maine and stuff, there wasn't going to be a lot of handouts.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were trying to save this.
Put 5 and 6 cans of cranberry sauce in your tank.
Well,
Yeah.
let's steer away from this for now. let's stick with, well, no, it can't be forever because it's actually the material. The question is, how does Jesus change your understanding of the things that are going on in the world and what could be as opposed to what is?
Seek first. It's all through the Bible, he tells us to do, so
Well, go ahead and tell.
seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
That's a good one. What else?
So many of them.
Ask and you shall have, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. That's why I love the right one. When I hear that every Sunday, I get tingles. I do. Come to me. Can you imagine God saying, come to me, I'll take care of you? He's the only one that can. And he's offering it for free.
And the thing that.
And you don't have to take a kill pill to get there.
The thing that you said, which I love, was it's in the moment. Jesus wants us to stay in the moment. And if you read Matthew 6:25, the cure for anxiety, that's an amazing chapter. Where he says, if I take care of the birds of the air and the lilies of the field that are
Right.
gone today and thrown into the fire, will I not take care of you, O men of little faith?
Maybe that's the key. Where is our faith? Is our faith in God or is our faith in the government? Is our faith in medicine and new procedures, or is our faith in the God who can lay his hand upon you and heal you instantly should you need it, or if it calls for it, bring you to his heavenly country gracefully and painlessly, that you might be totally restored, not just the ailment that you're praying for.
Or that medicine, the medical profession, having healthcare is contrary to God.
Oh, no. We're not Christian Scientists and all that kind of stuff.
But you need to pray, but you also need to act.
In Ecclesiasticus, I think it is, it tells you to give honor to the pharmacist and the physician for the work that they do, because God gives them those gifts and talents and abilities. And that's true. I hope you're not misunderstanding me. I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I'm not saying don't. I'm not even saying don't if your politician has a good plan for helping people who are homeless, like what's going on out in California and all that stuff, people living on the street, they come up with great, God bless them, but make it a plan that is equitable. Make it a plan that is effective and addresses the issue and not a 6,000 other things that they want to tack onto it. Right? There is a way, I'm sure there's a way to house all the people in San Francisco who are on the street. I'm sure there's a way to even give them employment if they take the COVID restrictions off. And that they be able to give them a sense of self-dignity and a desire to have a place of their own where they can care for it and be proud of it. But that's not what government does most of the time, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, too, when government dies, you have these people who come up and say, we don't want that in our neighborhood, and this stuff is from happening.
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah, okay, I heard California, we don't want them in our neighborhood. They're robbers and thieves and prostitutes.
Wait, haven't we heard that somewhere before?
So I
Well,
Favor, if I remember.
Elevator. But
So in
The-
order to have peace in this life, for me, I have to keep it really simple. I have to go, okay, God, what do you want me to do next? I have a lot of stuff to do today.
my wife just saw that I tried to call her before. Answer the phone. Honey? The man's gonna be there any minute. Well, get out of it quickly. No, don't get out of it. Get something else on. I love you, dear. Bye.
That's really fun.
She says, well, I'm in my nightgown. I meant to say, get dressed.
That's please.
Gonna scare the poor technician to death.
So anyway, what I'm asking is, there's a lot going on in this world, politically and everything.
And it's not just in our country, and it's not just our people.
But I think that what God wants us to do is to not focus on that, but to say many times during the day, okay, God, what do you want me to do next? Because I'm here to serve God.
Well, that's the question about the Christ. Jesus was God. He wasn't just a man. He was God himself. And the question is, if he came into the world and you acknowledge the fact that it's him, how does that change your life? If your own child, when you have him, can change your life so immensely that you now have your priorities switch. You won't work extra hours. You might work extra hours sometimes to get money to pay the bills, but other times you'll tell your boss, no, I can't. I've got to be home with my family, or I've got to take my kids on a vacation this summer because they're out of school and they deserve it, or any other number of things. You change the way you live, you change how you show your love, you change what you expect life to be like in the future. And the one thing, when you have a kid, you certainly expect right away that it'll never be the same. You might not know exactly what's going to happen, but you know it's that other life is out the window. You know, you'll never be single and carefree and spending your money the way you want and everything else again. Not because it's a torture, but because there's now a purpose to do it a different way. So how does Jesus change your life?
People keep asking me that. I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior when I was 8 years old. And multiple since.
Sure.
But that was the first time. I can't imagine what my life would have been if I had not made that decision. So I have a real hard time explaining how Jesus changed my life. Because I was little more than an infant myself when I made that decision. I had no idea what I was deciding. I had no idea what I was accepting or what Jesus expected of me.
Let me ask you this. What are you deciding now in your life? And how does Jesus affect that process? See, Jesus doesn't just, we don't just take one decision and say, I accept Jesus. But you've heard me say a dozen times from the pulpit, just because you're baptized, don't think you're going to heaven. It isn't going to happen. Not unless you do what you're supposed to do and go where you're supposed to go and act the way you're supposed to act and ask for forgiveness when you do things wrong so that you can be forgiven again and again and again and again. It's important. How does Jesus affect your life now? What decisions are you making every day? That's what I meant by in the moment. You should be looking for the birth of Jesus, the effects of Jesus's presence in your life now. Don't worry what happened 2,000 years ago. It's a nice story. It's great. Not a fake story, but you know what I'm saying. A nice accounting of what happened back then. And it's not, well, when Jesus comes back, I better be ready when he gets here, kind of a thing, because that might be sooner than you think. And not only that, the future isn't here. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then. We have some ideas from Revelation, okay. We have a few ideas from Paul, okay, but we don't know exactly. But what's happening right now? What decisions are we making right now based on our love and acceptance of Jesus Christ in our life? People can't tell you, most. Not because they don't want to, but like you're saying, it's hard to know what would have happened if you didn't. But if you ask Jesus, he's not going to tell you kill your mother-in-law or your wife. He's not going to tell you throw the kids out the window and try again later. He's not going to say sell the house, take the money, and go live in the desert. I mean, he did that with John. Okay, so that was a particular case. What about Matthew?
He did everything.
Well, they all gave everything up.
I know, but I would say Matthew, in his case, had more to give up than the other.
He had a lot. He had possessions, he had wealth, he had influence, but Peter had a wife. And he had to leave her behind. Didn't have to, but she chose to stay behind.
With her mother. Right?
What did I say about killing mothers? I know. I'm being facetious. There are ways to get what you want, and there are good ways and there are bad ways. The good way is to wait till mother goes on her own. And then if she wants to go and travel with Peter, she could. The women were never turned away from following. You're on speaker.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm all dressed.
This is
So
good.
if he comes, I'm not in my nightgown.
He should be there in any minute.
And I wanted to tell you that box with all those plastic things are for Mike, okay?
They're for Mike. That's what, yes. You weren't supposed to say his name.
Okay, I love you, honey.
Goodbye. Love you too.
Bye.
Anyway. She wasn't supposed to say it. I don't think so. Anyway. I forgot the question now because I was just, oh, okay, gotcha. Go. That question.
We're here.
Well,
Yes, it's good.
we are here.
Chose- Elsewhere doing something else. But we decided that one of the things we want to do today is kind of hear a little bit more about what Jesus expects of us, wants from us, what his Father has planned for the whole universe.
I think in a general sense that what Jesus wants from us is what God wanted from him. He wants us to change the world through
Yes.
example, through
We have
love.
to change ourselves first, don't we?
Well, I think most of us who are here are at least in the right general direction. I'm not going to say anybody here is super saintly, myself included, but we're heading in the right direction. If we speak up for what is right, and that's why I brought in some of the more extreme examples that I brought in. If we say, I just won't say anything, it'll be okay, it will never be okay. If you want to speak up for how people can be helped who've been taken advantage of in the past. I'm not a big fan of cash reparations and that kind of thing, but I do believe there's a way we can help people. We can offer scholarships to school for people who want to go. And I don't think we should tell every child in the world, white, black, Asian or otherwise, that if you don't go to college, you won't amount to anything. I got a plumber who's so damn rich. And he sets his own hours and he does his own work. He does great work. Don't get me wrong. He's worth every penny you pay for him. But he didn't have to go to college. He did an internship. He didn't even go to a union. He went to an internship with a private, and he does work that's phenomenal. We can't go by other people's agenda. We can't. And in all honesty, the more people that find their own way and let God lead them to where they need to be, whether it be as a plumber or a carpenter or an Uber driver. You know how many lives you can change as an Uber driver? No kidding. People get in the car and the first thing they do is look in the mirror to see whether you're a foreigner or not. And if you are, you got the chance of talking about your homeland and why you came here and what you think of this country and why you think it's such a great place. And they think, gee, I didn't think that. My people told me this was a rotten, lousy, awful, terrible place, this United States. Then we got to change it all. He said, are you kidding? You know who talks best about anti-communism? Cubans. No lie. They know it. They've lived it. They understand it. They see what's happening in different parts of our country. And they say, that's not where you want to go. That's not how you want to do it. They don't say there's not other choices and multiple choices of what you can do, but they say, don't do that. And everyone says, oh, you're just got your feelings hurt, or whatever. You got to talk to people. You can be an evangelist as a nurse. Can I pray for you? You know how many times my wife has said, can I pray for you to somebody? You know how many times I've said no? Count them on your hands in 30 years. You can be an evangelist and be a hot dog salesman on a cart on the corner in New York. Just by saying, God bless you to everybody who comes by. And eventually somebody's going to say, why do you keep saying God bless you? Oh, glad you asked.
Scared to back it up.
Oh, absolutely. But the same thing when we go to the nursing homes. Now, see, uh, if I'd had my druthers, I would have gone anyway, COVID or not. But I respecting what they asked and said they want to, yeah, they said, don't go, I'm respecting. But I have yet to ever be afraid, not cautious, not take sensible precautions, but ever to be afraid of anything. They said, they did it again this morning on this big snowstorm coming, gonna put you all under feet of snow. It's all gonna go. My wife says, oh my God, when's it gonna happen? I said, Oregon, dear, Oregon. But they're putting it on our regional news to scare the stuffing out of us. People who are worried about things are not going to do what they're supposed to do. They're going to do whatever they're told to do to prevent the disaster. And that's just the way it is with life.
Yes,
I do.
they are.
How many of them are saying, I accept you, Lord Jesus, and following him? They're weak-minded. Satan gets the better of them. And fear is his number one thing. Be afraid of cancer. Every ache you get, think, oh, I hope it's not cancer. Oh, sometimes it's going to be cancer, sometimes it's not. But if you feel something, you're worried, you go to your doctor and you say, give me a cancer test. You don't lay in bed worrying every night saying, I hope I don't have cancer. If the weather's going to be bad, say, do I have enough food in the house? Do I have a shovel out where I can get to it to dig out from the door toward the car? Sensible things, not craziness. People call it prepping, and when they say, "Oh, there's those preppers," those preppers are the ones that if we have a 3-week snow in, are going to have enough food to eat for 3 weeks for the whole family. And not only that, they'll have a natural gas line to light and to cook the food with. Or if they don't, they'll have a generator that they can go up and do an electric griddle to cook their food or do what they have to do. They're not conspiracy theorists. They're smart people who know what it takes to really be prepared in a world where there could be a nuclear war, which could put us underground for 6 months or more.
If we survive.
Well,
Oh, no, like 6 years.
no, not 6 years.
Really?
No, people don't understand. Radiation blows. It travels. It goes other places, and most of it. And no. Most of it will end up in the oceans, and the oceans will absorb it.
This has been so uplifting for me. Now I'm worrying about. I'm not worrying. Let's see, we've talked about starving, not eating animals. Now we've got to run out and prep for a snowstorm.
I didn't say we have to. I'm saying what I
Or digging a hole.
you weren't paying attention. Well, I didn't say we're going to get it. I didn't say we're going to get the blizzard. I don't. No. The blizzard. No. You're right about. We talked about Alyssa. I think.
You
Oh,
said there was a blizzard.
I apologize. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I don't want you to worry about it. I don't want anybody to worry about anything. I want us to be sensible.
What? This is not why I came here today.
But this is what it's
I don't wanna
about.
Worry about, oh, no, and I
Jeez.
use that word again
Okay.
wrong,
No, that's okay.
that they're murdering these people. That this brings a lot to my mind that I don't like to think about, that I thought I'd come here and feel a little uplifted and
Well,
Evan.
the answer to the
Evan.
question, the answer to
Stop.
the answer, well, that's the point of Advent, is that we're expecting Christ to come into our lives. And as I said 2 weeks ago, that we should be thinking about that happening now, not in the past, and not when Jesus returns to claim his church. But we should be figuring out how Jesus affects our lives. How does he change our life? I've asked that question 10 times already today. How is Jesus changing your life now? And one of the ways he can change our life is to reduce our fear, not take away our knowledge of what's going on in the world, not take away the chances of something bad happening that could really bad happen, but to let us know that no matter what happens, whether it's political, whether it's medical, whether it's what's not astronomical, well, that could be too, a comet coming out of the
I'll put that on the list.
Read chapter Isaiah, it is the vision of the peaceable kingdom.
yes.
And everything that we talked about, anticipating, what we're anticipating is the coming of God's peace.
That's what I was saying about my not being afraid. Even when they try to make you afraid, like with the weather report, or, when we had the hurricanes come, even the bad ones weren't as bad as they said they were going to be bad. They were bad, but they weren't as bad, and people prayed and people knew.
Where you lived, actually.
I know, well, yeah, but they got warnings and they could get out, and they were told when they should or shouldn't be, what they call it, not evacuate. I was going to say excavating. I think that's the wrong word. Evacuating. Excavating's for the nuclear thing. That's good. You see, I love you. I'm not trying to get you upset or scared. But Jesus is here to prevent the fear, not to change the world that way. He's not going to reach down and stop the weather. He's not going to reach down and stop there being nasty, awful people. He's not going to reach down and clear the minds of those who think that this or that is really, really good when it's not really, really good, but really, really bad. But we don't have to worry about that. We can do what we can to change it. Like I said, speak up, share God's word, do the good things, answer the people who ask for help if we can. Did you get the message about that woman?
Oh, no, I'm going over there today.
Okay. There's a great example. Somebody called and they said,
Fear is none of the Lord's making.
yeah, it's not.
Exactly.
I've read that book. But this woman calls the church. She says, Father Paul, can you help me with my monthly?
She didn't talk to you.
She talked to me through
No. This is an amazing man, because I was filling in for Greg that day.
I was going to say Greg. I thought it was Greg that told me.
No. And I answered the phone and spoke to her, and I listened to her story. Father Paul happened to be in that area. You were at that desk, and I asked her to hold on a moment. And I spoke to Father Paul and I told him what she said, and he heard how I was talking to her. And he said, well, he's gonna talk to Jerry to find out how much is in the discretionary fund. And I said, when will we get back to her? And he said, tomorrow, which we didn't. We took a couple of more days. But that's amazing. She's not even a member of our church.
She
and
was
I
in a
did-
bad
I
spot.
did go to visit her.
Good.
She's poor.
Anyway, the point is that when I finally talked to Jerry, she told me we have $350 left in the account. Well, that was about 100 more than I needed to pay her fee for her. And I told her, I said, we're going to have to ask people to give to the discretionary fund, because I said, I can't say no to her if I've got the money to do it. She is in real need. It wasn't like this other person that calls me every 6 months and says, can I have money? Can I have money? Can I have money? Can I have money? And they've been doing that for 17 years.
Oh, my God.
And if you took all the money I've ever given them, I've probably given them thousands of dollars. They had children before, and I was a sap for that. And other times she was in the hospital in very serious condition, and I was able to verify it with her doctors, and I was a sap for that. But now it's just, we're short of money for this and we're short of money. Get a job. Pardon me for being blunt.
Would they ever give anything back to other people or the?
Oh, no.
I remember that person. Every time we were on vacation, they called me and they bothered both Greg and I, well, when are you gonna be back? When are you gonna be back?
Well, but because they needed their money, and they saw me as their bank.
So there's a lot of other people need money.
But this woman was, for the first time, she had a legitimate request. She was in an honestly difficult position where she had no other recourse but than to ask for help. And if I got enough left in that account to help her, I'm going to help her. And I don't care that she's not a member of the church. And I've never cared.
She did come here when she was younger with her children.
Well, God, tell her to get back.
Well, she's not well, but I just want to speak to something that Joanne said. I agree with what she said about, because and I had told you this before, Marianne Williamson, who did the Course in Miracles, says, look, there's only two camps in life. There's the camp of fear and there's the camp of love. And whatever is coming from fear is what's going on with the world. And Jesus came from love. And so that's our job, as much as possible, to come from love. And if God leads you to change something, then change it. But if he's not leading you to change something, then just shut the hell up and don't talk about it because it makes it worse. And just come from love, do loving things.
Well,
That's what I believe. I think there's too much talking about the evil in the world. I think that's part of.
we have to be aware of it, not,
The only thing we
supportive
have to
of it.
be aware of, is Jesus. Because, and I'm not saying that we should be ignorant, and it's very hard to be ignorant in this world because people are always talking about it. But where I'm coming from, the only thing we have to do is focus on Jesus and his love and what he wants us to do that day. And that's it.
you should have heard my sermon at my daughter's wedding.
Was it similar or was it opposite?
Oh, it was strong that way. I kept saying, Jesus has got to be the center. God has got to be the top of your priorities.
Exactly. And
If
the
you
only-
don't put him first, you're not going to make it. It's not going to work. know.
Exactly.
And they knew what I was saying.
I mean, just by praying for everyone, dear God, bless all of your children, bless all of the animals, bless all of nature. That's doing a lot more than having to know the drama of what's going on.
Well, unfortunately, I've got the direct news stream.
Well,
And I hear this stuff and all, and when you hear what I shared with you about the two 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds that went over and did that, you've got to ask yourself, what evil in this world is driving young people who have their whole life in front of them, who have the capability of learning and producing and sharing and discovering and all that, to decide that their life wasn't worth living.
No, see, I disagree with you. We don't have to ask that question. The question we have to ask is, dear Jesus, what do you want me to do? There's no answer to that question of why that happened.
Oh, sure there
There's
is.
no answer. So it's like, I'm not gonna ask those questions. I'm not gonna watch the news because I'm very sensitive. I am gonna focus on Jesus. That's all I have to do.
The problem is, if we only focus on Jesus, and don't misunderstand my need for priorities and God first, it's not that. But if the only thing we do is get up every morning and think, dear Jesus, thank you for my life. Be nice to everybody. Everything's going to be fine. I love you.
I
And
don't
go
do
back.
that.
No, I'm just saying, if that's the way we approach it, it's the same thing as the denominations that say it's you and me, Jesus. I'm saved. I'm going to heaven. I don't have to worry about anybody else. And that's not what it's about. That's contrary and against everything Jesus did. He came, he could have been the King of the Kings. He could have had the universe. He could have wiped away Rome. He could have done all that stuff, but instead he saw the pain. He went with the poor and the lepers and the lame and the blind and the deaf and the dumb and the cripples and the tax collectors and the prostitutes and the thieves and the stinky fishermen. Oh, I gotta think. I used to fish, so I know what stinky is.
You see, that was his path.
But that's our path too. We are Christ. Yes, we are Christ present in the world. And if we do not help to change the things that are wrong, that are evil, that are bad, if we do not try, do our part. I'm not saying we solve the whole problem. Nobody can solve the whole problem. Only Jesus can. But if we do not do something to reach out to those people, just like this woman that called, I don't know her. She's not a member of my church. I don't have enough money to really spare, but I took care of her anyway because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Absolutely, right, absolutely.
And that goes the same with all these other things. I should be reaching out to teenagers and telling them your life is worth living.
You only reach out if Jesus tells you to reach out.
And on Sunday, when you say, I had to help a woman who was really in a lot of trouble, my discretionary fund is very, very low. Even people who don't have a whole lot are gonna put $1 or $2 or whatever they can afford in that.
And that's trying to change it.
Doing Jesus.
Yes,
work rather than-
exactly. And they're doing,
know the horror, whatever horror that.
In that particular instance, no,
They
it wouldn't.
don't. They just know that that's what they need to do.
Okay,
Right, exactly.
but the
So
point
I
is somebody,
remember Between the time he says it and I get back to the back of the room.
Yeah,
and put it in
but,
bed.
but the thing is, somebody has to know what's wrong in order to ask for what's necessary to correct it. I don't have to give you the whole 9 yards from the altar. You're right. All I have to do is say, there's someone in extreme need. We've run out of money and we need help. That's okay. But I still have to know. And I don't think it's fair that everybody says, Father Paul, you can know all the evils of the world. You can be under the burden and the stress of everybody's confession to you. You can be under the burden of knowing who's poor and who's losing their houses and whose children have died and everything else. But don't tell us about it. We don't want to know. You take care of it. And that
Believe me, I
you have no
know
idea what
that.
that put, I know you, I know, no, I know you do. I know you do. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
doesn't mean that I want to put my television on every day and look at.
no, and I'm not saying
it
you,
anyway.
I'm not saying you have
And it
to.
doesn't mean that I have to know every detail. It's enough to know that these people died.
Yes.
I don't have to go home and think and hurt about it for a long time.
One of
Enough.
one of the things that many clergy have, not all, is a very strong empathic ability. And unfortunately, because of that, we literally take on the hurts of other people. It's the worst thing in the world that could happen to us. Because when I hear that thing, like for instance, about the 2 girls, ever since that's happened, I've just wondered in my heart, where are they? And I hope they didn't go to hell because of what they did, because other people convinced them of something that was evil and wrong and bad. And what can I do to stop another couple from doing? And that's me. That's not you. And you don't have to do that. But I need help. And I don't just mean a psychiatrist.
But
Although that would be an aid.
depending on how you look at it, but maybe those girls would have just committed suicide anyway.
They might have.
But I think society too,
Because
because as a teacher, I've seen the changes. But when I first started teaching, children did not bring a cell phone to school. They did not
They
go
didn't have
on
cell
all the
phones.
social media. And they're entrenched in that all day long.
Yeah.
The society's pressure on them is so intense because they have this vision of self-protection.
Yeah, my daughter won't allow, well, not that he's old enough to do it now anyway, but won't allow her children to ever look at TikTok. And I'm hoping that we can outlaw it as a government as soon as we can. It is evil and it's run by evil people who wish to see our country collapse around its social norms. And
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But if the government tries, I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar, the Supreme Court would come back and say, freedom of speech is their right to say what they want.
not for a foreign country.
Oh, why?
It's a foreign country owns TikTok. And they're using TikTok as a means of
Oh, okay.
doing
I
different
didn't know.
things.
Well,
Anyway, the point is, how is Jesus, the baby, changing your life? How is our child, Jesus, changing our life as the grown-up Jesus? Us. We're the grown-up Jesus on earth. He's the head and we're the body. Eyes and legs and things and the hands and fingers all do different things. That's great, but we all got to do it. We're all part of the body. We are all Jesus present in the world. Are we different from every atheist, from every non-believer, from every person who's ignorant of the presence of God? How are we different?
So it's so strong, so intense, and we just try to keep on following what is good and right in this world and present Jesus to everybody else. You know, when I told you when we were talking about the nursing home, I got a call from one of the ladies from the Palms. They were there with the COVID, but they gave me a heads up that the institution didn't call me. It was one of the ladies that I bring communion to. And I went anyway, I just wore a mask,
Right.
and they were so grateful I came, they thanked me.
It's like my wife when she was a nurse. It didn't matter how bad or how strong or how many people were sick. Her patients had COVID. She had to wash their bottoms and clean their
God.
where they delivered their baby from and everything else with blood and all that kind of stuff. And she just took the precautions, but there were other nurses that said, we're not coming in. We're taking personal time. We're not going to deal with this. And that's their choice and that's their right. But Priscilla, she cared more about the people that she was caring for than she did even about herself. And that sounds like I'm bragging on my wife, but that is a Christ-like attribute. That is the way we're supposed to be. Then that's how giving our money away when we only have a little left, giving food on the Boy Scouts feeding people on Thanksgiving Day, when they could be home with their families and having a good time, but no, they're here cooking and serving people.
And I bet they had a good time doing it.
Oh, but they did too. I really do. I think so. But just like Jesus, he says, if you don't let me wash your feet, Peter, you have nothing to do with me. You've got to let me serve you. You've got to let me be what my Father sent me here to be, which is a servant to all. And we are servants to all as well.
He who serves his fellows is greatest, how's that go? He who serves his fellow is greatest among his fellow, greatest.
Must be King James Version.
In the Bible, it's
It's probably,
way thing.
oh, really? Oh, that's good too.
Yeah.
Right. That's step 12.
Well, remember what Jesus just said Sunday. He said, as great as John is and as wonderful as John is, he's the least in the kingdom of heaven, because people who would do the thing, other kinds of things will actually be more effective in doing what needs to be done than he would. He did his job and he did it well, perfectly. He introduced the Messiah, got people going where they needed to go, and then I was going to say stepped out of the picture, but I think it was like lopped out of the picture. And that was that. But other people that are doing it now, the disciples, the apostles in the story, are risking their lives in a much more public way, and in a much more in a way which is much more disruptive to society. John was disruptive enough to the temple, but the apostles were disruptive to Rome. And that's what got him in the end. Jesus was disruptive to Rome. He was a king, even though he said, I'm not going to exercise my kingship here. They didn't care. They said, if you think you're a king, you're out of here.
I know it's amazing that was the Pharisees and all that, but they thought just by eliminating Jesus, they'd eliminate the problem. They
Oh.
thought that his word had spread so far and wide, all it did was eliminate that one person, so.
You got to watch The Chosen. Like I said, it's not biblically perfectly accurate, but everything biblical in it is accurate in terms of what is said by whom and things like that. And the others are developed characters, like Matthew. Well, they say tax collector. Well, they show how he lived his life, how his family sent him away and wouldn't talk to him because they said he was dead because he was using blood money of the Jews to support Rome. They showed how he made his decision to change and follow Jesus. They showed how there were Pharisees that loved Jesus, loved him, and wanted to follow him, and were this close to following him, literally standing 50 feet from Jesus when he left to begin his ministry with his disciples. And they said, is there anybody else? And he sat there and he wept because he couldn't go around the corner and leave his wife and leave his position and not be in the Sanhedrin anymore. And wept. He wanted to be with Jesus that bad, but he couldn't force himself around the corner to do it. That's the kind of stuff you don't read that in the Bible. But you do read about this particular Pharisee and when he talked to Jesus and what happened and where he went and who defended him at the council and stuff like that. This fills it out. This gives you the rest of the view of what the person had to have been like and what they would have to have gone through to be who they were. And they show a lot about the fishy, smelly fishermen. Particularly smelly. Anyway, it's. We haven't answered the question and we probably can't. But how does Jesus, that baby in the manger, that child who leads us, how has he changed our lives? And what are we doing day by day,
I can
day
answer
by
that.
day? Well, go ahead and give it a try.
Well, for me, what Jesus did was he came into the world to make it possible for me to have a personal relationship with him and God.
Well, that's good. But we got to get past the personal. That's what I was saying.
Get past the personal?
Yep, just like
Everything's
Jesus's father was God in heaven. Jesus was God himself. But he didn't focus on that.
No. By having a personal relationship with Jesus, he can tell me what to do day by day.
He can,
Yes, and he
but how,
does, and he
okay,
does.
the
I
question,
don't wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, the world's such a mess. How am I gonna help the world? What am I gonna do? And what about this? And what about that? No, I wake up and I have my prayers and I pray. And my focus is, okay, Jesus, what do you want me to do today?
but what my wife does when she gets up in the morning,
And it's that simple.
she starts,
That's
she
simple.
starts her day by saying, thank you, Lord, for this particular thing. Thank you, Lord, for that particular thing. And she goes through a whole list of particulars. And then she says, now let's get down to work. And that's her way to do what you said you do as well. You do it a slightly different way.
It's like, I didn't want to, last night, I didn't want to come here. I have a lot to do, a very busy day. I go, you know what? God?
She makes me feel important.
But I love you.
I know, I'm
love you,
teasing you.
and But I didn't, I have a lot to do today. It's a very busy day. But says, you know what, Lord, I'll wake up tomorrow and you'll tell me what to do. That's how simple my life is. Doesn't mean I have an easy life. I don't.
No, I don't think anybody does.
But I have a simple life.
Yeah,
For
And-
example, like we go to nursing home
right.
2 Mondays out of the month.
That's right. And
Second.
they love you for it.
And honestly, I get up on Monday, I'm like, oh, great day. And it's because it's a lot of little steps, you gotta dress and something different.
Gotta stop by the church, pick up the stuff. and-
Bulletin.
The worst part is you gotta pick up Glenn. No. Oh, he's a nice guy. I'm only teasing you.
But,
Well, that's what brothers are supposed to do.
we go. And we come back. Always so glad we went. Oh, because we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Exactly.
And to be honest, there's not that many places where you can actually say, "Oh, I'm doing a good thing."
And that changes the world.
And
Well, it changes their world anyway. Yeah.
for at least for that 20 minutes that we're there.
Right.
And I read prayers, and I read those prayers and they're like absorbed them.
Oh.
And it's a good thing. And
That 103-year-old woman.
what's going on? A lot of them, they can't see, they can't read, they don't participate. But when you say the Lord's Prayer,
They say it with
they
you.
all say it.
Oh, wow.
It's powerful.
When I filled in for you the one time, and I don't normally know who I was, they said, thank you so much for coming today, because they really couldn't come, and they were so grateful somebody came and helped them.
Yes,
It's different.
Yep.
At the Pines, the ladies say that to me sometimes, I go, I woke up today, I really didn't feel very good and all, but I figured, well, you're coming through the ice and the snow and the rain and the sleet and everything else, and you're coming, and you may not have had a good day, and you're here, I can come. I mean, they're within the same building, they don't have to walk far, they have to figure out how to get there and everything else.
One
So-
kindness at a time changes the world. That's the way it works. One act of love
Oh, definitely.
changes the.
Well, an act of love we could do now is to say a closing prayer because we're 7 minutes past closing and I've got stuff I've got to
Oh,
do.
just 7 minutes, I put it into the noon.
No, I have it booked for 11 to 12:30.
Oh.
So, but we're already past it on this now. So, well, hey, Rich, think you could do a closing prayer for me? I like it when you pray. It comes from the heart.
Lord, we give thanks for this meeting today and that we could hear the word. Amen.
That was from the heart. Anyone who might be watching this, don't forget next week is our very last